Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is Devon Johnson, and I'm here for the post-game report, Showtime Forum post-game show. And let me make some adjustments here because I don't like the way I look. The Lakers have won another one. Lakers win tonight. It was an ugly one, but they win 108-94. Lakers are able to stay undefeated on the road, and unfortunately, it was another ugly win, but we'll take it. Of course, the Lakers did not play up to their capabilities tonight or their potential, but they were still able to get the win over the Grizzlies. I'm letting you guys know up front that Chaz is not with us today. He had an emergency right before the show, and so he was trying to handle that, and I told him, don't worry about it. I said this will be a game, post-game for the chat. So when you guys get on in here, I'm going to be answering and talking to and responding to all of the chat today. This will be one of those chat post-games. And I cannot say enough about how important the Lakers' depth has been. But before we get into all that, let's deal with these topics tonight. We're going to be dealing with a few things. We're going to be dealing with the Lakers winning another ugly game, and what does that mean for them? How should we take in and how should we process what we've seen over the last couple of road games? Of course, we're going to talk about Kuz, who got the start. There's been a lot of conversation around Kuzma. Chaz, of course, as you know, is what they call from the Kuz hive. He's probably the leader of it. And he did talk about what happens when Kuzma gets 30 minutes and things like that. But we're going to kind of put in context this game today. This is not going to be one of those excuses, but we are going to deal with some of the things that we saw tonight. We're going to talk about Wes Matthews, who, again, had another great game, being able to go consistently from the three-point line and playing some decent defense in the second half. And then lastly, we're going to talk about the Lakers and their road win and how this kind of brings some similarities from last year's trends of them being able to be such a good road or away from home team. So we're going to jump into all that tonight. I'm really excited. As a matter of fact, I'm going to turn some of my volume down so that I don't blow you guys out the water. But we're going to deal with a few things here, guys. So first, we're going to deal primarily, let's talk about what we saw. What we saw in the very beginning, this is the second time we've seen this, where the Lakers come out hot in the very beginning. And before you get out of the first quarter, you watch the momentum change. You watch the score or the lead, a double-digit lead, get dwindled down, and then essentially we end up behind by double digits. We've seen this story before. And it almost makes you wonder, well, what is happening? Why would the Lakers come out with so much momentum and then essentially take their foot off the gas, and then it becomes way closer than it should be? As you guys already heard, Chaz said that there's no way that the Lakers lose against the Grizzlies. But I'm going to be honest. If we're all going to be honest together, it did not feel like it was going to be a win. It didn't feel like it was going to be a win until later on. All Black Everything, good to see you. Pepper Potts, my cousin, good to see you. It didn't feel like a win. It didn't feel like it was going to be. Even if we won, it still didn't feel like a win. Even tonight, we won by a pretty large margin, 108-94, but it didn't feel good, right? I remember, if I'm kind of putting this into a symbolism, I remember Dave Chappelle telling this joke about politics, and he said when he was listening to Hillary Clinton give a speech, by the time she was giving this speech about politics, he said it felt like Darth Vader was doing the "I Have a Dream" speech, right? When things happen that look ugly, it's hard to enjoy the positive part of it. My job tonight is to take the ugly thing that we've seen and to make it feel good. And I'm going to show you in a few different ways. Number one, what we saw tonight is how this team has identified itself as resilient. I know it sounds crazy, but this team actually knows its identity at this point in this area. They know that they have the capability and the potential to win games by large margins, and they're going to do it by their depth. This is the key. The key to this team, which is different than last year. We have to erase what we think about or thought about the team last year and reset our minds. This is a team that is reliant upon depth. This is no longer the team that is relying on Anthony Davis and LeBron James to give them 25 to 30 points every night in order for them to win. That is not how this team is going to win. We've seen them win in a blowout and nobody scored above 20 points. Tonight was much more one of those games where they know what they can do and they're utilizing this time to figure it out. Blake St. Clair on YouTube, good to see you, my brother. He has said it correctly. There's not a lot of front court cohesion yet. We talked a lot, and if you get a chance, check out not only the Showtime Forum podcast, but Lakers Film Room. They have a podcast as well, and they talked about this, and it's so on point that Marc Gasol. LeBron made a comment about running the offense through Marc Gasol. Well, that makes sense. If you didn't have people who could run the point, when you have a LeBron and you have a Schroeder and you have an AD who can actually run the point, when you have people who are able to handle it, THT actually they speak well of his ability to be a ball handler. It's hard to find a space for Marc Gasol, and you can't just put him at the top of the key and essentially just ask him to be a passing center all of the time. His usage rate is really mirroring a lot of what we saw last year between Dwight and JaVale. The issue is Dwight and JaVale were strictly finishers, okay? These were guys that all they did was their job was to finish. And they talked about this on the podcast as well. They would go 7-8 plays without ever touching the ball. Well, Marc Gasol is best used when he has the ball in his hands. But when you have a whole team that is deep full of ball handlers, when I say deep, most teams only have one or two people. We have about 3 or 4 that can handle the ball. It becomes harder to find cohesion between people there. And not just the front court, the back court has issues as well. And so as you see Vogel playing around with these lineups, what he does know is that when we get to the fourth quarter, our depth is going to take over. Dennis Schroeder is going to do his thing. We saw him turn the defense up second half. LeBron is going to do his thing, who once again continues the streak of double-digit points in consecutive regular season games. So we know that we can rely on that on the fourth. And somehow we find a way in the second and third quarters and sometimes the middle of the first to try to figure out how we're going to make things work. And every matchup is different. Harrell did not play great against San Antonio. But let's look at his stats tonight. He did fairly decent. 21 minutes, 16 points. He was not doing that against San Antonio. And in both games, he had pretty much back-to-back bad road games because he doesn't match up well there. We know that now. Now, if we were going up against the Spurs again, you probably would see Vogel make an adjustment, much like he did with Dwight against the Rockets in the playoffs. Once you kind of know what you have and you know where they fit and you understand where their weaknesses and their strengths are, then you can start following solid rotations depending on the teams you're facing. It's so early in the season, it's kind of hard to figure that out now. So everything right now is almost like data analysis. And we found a lot of what works and what does not work. All right, let me get to these real quick because there's some more stuff I want to get into. I definitely want to get into Kuz. All Black Everything, Periscope, good to see you. This was just like Friday. Coasted through the first 3 quarters, then turned it up the last 8 to 10 minutes. And once again, I'm just trying to make sure that we walk away from this with a positive note. Plenty of negative things to focus on, but the positive note is this. This team knows that it can win. That is not a guess. They know it. They can win, even if it's ugly. They know, just like All Black Everything said, they can coast through a few quarters. Now, we've lost 2 games already. We're 5-2. We've already lost 2 games. And we've lost a game. We've lost games that were winnable games, but we're still figuring it out in the beginning of the season. It's very possible that the Lakers can go on a long win streak because they're going up against teams like the Memphis Grizzlies where they can afford to play around coast and still win the game. We don't want to focus so much on the ugliness, but we want to figure out what is Vogel doing? How is he manipulating these rotations? What is he finding out about players? And what they can do, and then how is he instituting that, okay? We saw in the last game that THT only had 5 minutes, but tonight he had 24. Once again, you're seeing how the rotations are kind of playing around. He relied heavily on his bench for minutes. Matthews, 27 minutes. THT, 24 minutes. Harrell, 21 minutes. So you're seeing him finding things that work and then being able to throw a rotation or a lineup together that he can kind of figure out if it's going to be good or not. Let me go to another one here. Pepper Potts, if Chaz is Kuz High President, I'm VP. And let's talk about our boy, man. Our boy Kuz got the start tonight. He had 11 points, was 3 of 7 from 3. Now, this is going to be slightly the antithesis of Chaz's argument, okay? And listen, I'm a Kuz believer, but this is another part where I agree with people about consistency. Okay, the conversation is that if you give him regular run, if you give him a stock of minutes, you can watch him go. And tonight he did fairly decent, but out of the 11 points, 9 of them were for three. He took 7 3-point shots. I'm not mad at that at all. The Lakers finished with 34% from three, only shooting 35 and making 12. I'm not mad at that. What I'm wondering is, in the 30 minutes as he was there, how much of a contributor was he? And so when you look at other stats, and remind you, this is the one thing we kept talking about was rebounds, right? We talked about rebounds and finding himself on the block, and we talked about that tremendous putback that he had. That counts as rebound and points. Being able to find his identity on the court when it matters. In 30 minutes, him only having 3 rebounds, that to me is more indicative than his point total. He can score. We know he can score. Catch and shoot, he can do it. If he gets a great screen in the mid-range, he can catch and shoot there as well. My question is the other intangibles, his defense. He had 4 fouls tonight, which means he was reaching. He had more fouls than anybody else on the team. That to me, and he also tied for the highest in turnovers. So for me, these are things that I'm focused on against a very energetic but a bad Grizzlies team. Okay, this is not a great team. I think they're 2-5 now. So what we're looking at with Kuz is, can we get him to a place where he's consistent enough? This is the key. If he's not going to be consistent, then his rotation minutes are going to have to decrease, because consistency in the midst of depth is where you find your spot. If you can't be consistent, you're not going to find minutes, and that's true for any NBA team. Consistency is key. And so what I'm looking for Kuz is he has to find a way to impact the game consistently. And only having 3, if you have more fouls and you have rebounds, that's a scary thought. Okay, that's a scary thought to me. But it's one of those things we're gonna have to figure out. And Kuz has already had his contract, so now we're not worried about whether or not he's fighting for his contract and a contract. All that stuff's out the window. Now it's about him finding his spot. And tonight was a little bit different. Now this goes back to what I was saying before. Kuz plays better when Anthony Davis and LeBron James are not on the court, or when they're both not on the court. One or the other works fine. But if you put them both on the court and throw him in there as a third, he cannot be productive. That is not the kind of scorer he is. This is my same argument with Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram is a tremendous player, but there was no way he was going to fit with LeBron because he needs the ball. For Kuz, not that he needs the ball, but he can't find space when you have LeBron, who's a big, and you have AD, who's a big, and both of them can get to the cup. Okay, it makes it a little bit more difficult for him to really get to his game. But tonight, he did not show up the way that I anticipated him showing up. Chaz is both the president and VP of the Kuz Hive. All Black Everything saw a pocket of people kicking around the idea of maybe bringing over Whiteside. Gosh, I hope not. Yeah, so here's the question. I saw that too as well. I got tagged in a couple of tweets about it. There's a lot of conversation about Whiteside, who right now essentially is not really being used where he's at. But it's the MO on him, or pretty much the news on him is pretty much the same no matter where he goes. He has the ability to give you great rim protection some days. Give you the ability to give you great rebounding because he has the length, right? And when he's active and when he's engaged, he is one heck of a player. The issue is that no team has been able to get this guy to stay engaged. They cannot get him to stay engaged. And when he's not engaged, he is a waste of space on your roster. And I know that's hard to say when we have the issue that we have. Now, the conversation that I've been hearing, this is what I've been getting back. The conversation I'm hearing is, because the Lakers have been able to rehabilitate the identities and get people back into their career playing stats, right? We got Dwight back into a space where he obviously is shining where he's at in Philadelphia and did great for us in winning a championship. We have the ability to help people salvage their career, especially when they've already kind of gone through teams. And so it makes sense. People think, okay, we did it for Dwight. Surely we could do it for Whiteside. Here's the issue. Dwight was engaged when he came. There was a clear conversation that was given, non-guaranteed contract. This is what it's going to take. That is not the same with Whiteside, okay? I don't anticipate him getting cut that I can think of. I don't anticipate that. It would be a shock to me if he did. But it doesn't make sense for the Lakers in this sense because with Dwight, it was all reward, very little risk. Okay, if anything got out of line, you could cut him, and it was like you never signed him. With Whiteside, it comes with a plethora of issues. You're already trying to figure out You're already trying to figure out rotational issues. Even though you need a big man, you're trying to figure out how that would work. And with the guy who can do nothing but stay in the middle, he has no outside anything, okay? At the least, Marc Gasol can be a threat as a passer and sometimes a three-point shooter. Whiteside has none of that, okay? And so the issue that you're going to have with that is, okay, I'm going to throw somebody in there to be a finisher, and this team is not the same as it was last year. This is not a finisher at the rim team. This is a team that is shooting tremendously well from three. We were not doing that last year. We're shooting much better from three now. That wasn't our identity last year. So we're looking to space the floor, and it's not so much about finishing. You have a Schroeder who doesn't necessarily need to pass it. You have a THT who can get his own bucket at the rim. You have LeBron James who can get his own bucket at the rim. And at the end of the day, your biggest and greatest finisher is going to be Anthony Davis. And so throwing Whiteside in there, he probably would see 5 to 7 minutes maybe. 5 to 7 minutes maybe in this offense. He creates problems. I don't anticipate Whiteside being signed. I don't think it's even on the Lakers' radar, to be honest. I see why people fight for it. I don't think it's going to happen. That's my thought on it. Can someone please tell Gasol to stop shooting threes? Grooving on Twitch. Listen, he's going to keep shooting threes. He's going to keep shooting threes because he has the ability to shoot them. He's not a great three-point shooter. But at the end of the day, he can hit some, and he has hit some threes. He was 0 of 3 tonight, and that's fine with me. I don't have a problem with that because even if he misses badly, the issue is that if he shoots out there and makes one, he essentially has now interrupted and disrupted the other team's defense tremendously because now they have to keep honest on him, and that leaves Anthony Davis or LeBron James open to go down to the floor. And with Gasol being such a tremendous passer, it gives him the ability to do some things. Now tonight, Gasol had 4 assists. And some of those passes, he actually really should have had 6 because there were 2 passes that he made that were so tremendous. But Schroeder missed the bunny at the rim because he didn't even think Marc could get that bounce pass through on that pick. And he did it, okay? Marc Gasol is able to really help get people at the rim. But what really helps that is when he's shooting threes and he makes them. All he needs to make is 1, and the defense has to keep honest on him, okay? So I don't want him to stop shooting threes. I just want him to make it. That's my thing. Blake St. Clair, if Kuzma's going to play guard, he needs to assist on top of his rebounding. That's exactly what we just said. He needs to be able to find the open man, make the extra pass. He's done that. He's shown that earlier so far this season. We're only 7 games in, but he's found a way to show and display that he's capable of that. He needs to make that an accent point in his game where people now will respect him as making the extra pass. That will not only open up for him to be able to threat with a fake pass and shoot, but it also could open up the lanes as people try to help on the passing lanes. So we'll see how he incorporates that into his game. But you're right. He needs to add in assisting on top of rebounding. I like that THT is a much more versatile player to fill in more of the KCP minutes. Now let's talk about this real quick. Okay, this is one of the biggest things I want to talk about. The Lakers are missing Caruso and KCP. So what we saw during that run, when the Lakers had a lead and then they lost the lead and then they were down by double digits. This is normally where Caruso shines. This is where you don't see him on the stat sheet. This is where you're probably not going to see a lot of highlights. But he's able to disrupt their offense enough that runs are shortened or they're disrupted as they're trying to gain momentum. KCP is another great guard who's able to stay on like a Dylan Brooks or whoever was getting going tonight. And so there were some threes that were being hit during that run that I really feel like Caruso would have disrupted or messed up and got shooters off of their rhythm. We're missing him. I tweeted it. We miss you. Okay, we are missing our 2 best backcourt guards. Those guys know how to handle guards a little bit better than a THT who's still trying to figure it out, than a Kyle Kuzma who's been really trying to get his defense up, but he's not a defensive threat like Caruso or KCP. And to be honest with you, like the word is out. The word is out. People know that Caruso now has the ability to lock up defenders if he really puts his mind to it and if he really gets it going. Okay. But we were missing them. Okay. So tonight it was good to see that we have a versatile player like THT. But he as much as he can do things scoring, he's still trying to figure it out on the defensive end. And as his length is such a premium plus for him being a guard in this league at his youth. But the issue is that he hasn't learned how to use his length just yet. He's still helping on defenders that he should not help on. He still has not been able to recognize weak side help for the person he's defending. So he's over helping and he's allowing passes to go through and people are getting easy buckets at the rim. These are things that he's going to have to work on. If he doesn't work on these things, it's really going to stunt his growth. Okay, we know what his potential is, but he has to work on those things in order to round out and complete his game. I missed the game, but saw we were behind early. I think the first month will be this way until ready. Leonard Buchanan on Periscope. Leonard, I'm going to be honest. It's probably going to be that way until possibly even February. Okay? Until possibly even February. That we're going to have to figure out a whole lot of things. Okay? I want to show this real quick if I have a chance. Let me see if I can show this real quick. I want to show you something about why we should be excited, okay? Why we should be excited. Let's see if I can pull this up for you guys real quick, okay? One of the things that I noticed about this team was their ability to run the fast break. And I want to show you this real quick, okay? Let me see if I can pull this up. Here we go. All right, I want to show you this right here. This now, I want you to watch this play of what's happening right here. LeBron takes the ball. Now, I want you to watch the defenders. All of them know that LeBron can take that to the hoop. I want you to notice how many of the Grizzlies are waiting for LeBron to make a decision. I want you to watch this. It's going to go back again. LeBron grabs the rebound, and instantly you see 3 Grizzlies run down the court. Now, watch this. You're watching it right now. Okay, Wesley Matthews is down there. LeBron knows it, but nobody can really make a move. Nobody can get on him to try to stop him with the ball. Nobody can do that because he is such a great passer. This is why this team will always be okay in the fourth. Because anytime that LeBron decides to take it to the hoop, teams have to respect not only his ability to drive and finish, to drive and get an and one, so they have to be careful of how they foul, but also his ability to find shooters that they don't even see. Okay? This is what we have. And this is year 18, guys. This is not even him in his premium prime. This dude is able to do this stuff. So when we find ourselves down, unfortunately, I worried a little bit, but we don't have to worry in the fourth because these things happen. Okay? That right there is a beautiful thing to watch. Okay? That's a beautiful thing to watch. When you see those things happen, that lets you know that there's nobody else in the league who can do that. Not even Giannis. Giannis has a tremendous ability to be able to get to the rim, but teams know if he's driving down the court, we put a 3-man wall up and he's stuck. Okay, LeBron, you can put a 3-man wall up and he's going to find an open shooter. This is the identity of this team. As we try to figure out things, when we know we have to go to our bread and butter, we have the right person to get that done. So I had to show that because that was one of my favorite plays, was watching how many Grizzlies could not figure out what to do because if they spread out to the shooters, they're leaving him wide open. If they collapse on him, he's going to find the open shooter. And when you have Wesley Matthews, who's doing what he did tonight, Wesley Matthews, again, with a tremendous game, shooting, being able to shoot 4 of 6 from 3. That to me is a sign that he's trending in the right direction. This is the second game where he's been aggressive from 3, and he's been making them. Okay, this is what we brought him in here for, and this is why I said you can't dump this dude in the trash because he's not hitting shots right now. It's the same way I feel about Marc Gasol. Once they find their spot, find their rhythm, know what they're there for, and how they're supposed to fit into the rotation, they can shoot with confidence and in a comfortable space. I don't think we found a space for Mark just yet, but Wesley Matthews has found his rhythm tonight. And he's going to have games where he goes, 0 of 3 or 0 of 4. That's fine. I don't mind that. There's games where LeBron goes 1 of 8 from 3. That doesn't bother me. But the ability for him to be able to shoot 3 and 4 threes, we didn't have this last year. Just the addition of Schroeder and Matthews from the 3-point line has already thrown our 3-point percentage all the way up into the upper half of the league. We were not the upper half of the league all season, okay? We hit them when it mattered, but our best 3-point shooter was really Anthony Davis and LeBron James. That's not what you want. You don't want LeBron James to be your best 3-point shooter. As great as he is, you want to surround him with 3-point shooters so that he can keep the defense honest like he did on that play. Blake St. Clair, letting Boogie get away was a mistake. Short-sightedness, in my opinion, for end of the last season, bringing in JR and Dion. Boogie could not play going into the playoffs, so JR and Dion, Boogie was not an option when we signed JR and Dion. If you remember, even though he had made progress coming back from his injury, he was not fully ready. They reported that he had another setback before the playoffs, and they had to let him go by a certain point, and they did. Once he got out of that, there really was no way to sign him. Okay, once COVID hit and all the money changed, there really was no way to sign him. Okay, we had lost his rights to him. We did give him a ring because he was with us, but for the most part, there was no way to make the money work, especially when you had players giving back money to make this season operate. So it wasn't so much that it was a mistake. There's nothing you could do. The best we could have done would have been Dwight, but Dwight would have taken that money. But there's no way we could have fit all that stuff underneath the cap, and we still leave ourselves flexibility to be able to sign free agents in the next couple of years. Summer Santa, your most precision point. They know how to win. I do miss JaVale and Dwight for that second chance, though. Yeah, I do too. But it's a completely different offense. Dwight and JaVale don't work in this offense. This is completely different, and we have to divorce ourselves of what we've seen before. We did not have great three-point shooting. We were built on defense. This team is not built on defense right now. We're built on depth. We have to change our mind about that. Now we're trying to incorporate defense because we know how important it is. But we did not have depth last year. That was one of our biggest weaknesses, was our bench. We came on this show and we constantly talked about how we were ready to get rid of people. We were ready to get rid of Kuz. There was a point we were ready to get rid of KCP when he wasn't starting. There were points where y'all were begging for JaVale not to get into the game. The reason why it feels so different now is because we were acclimated for a year and a half, okay, the longest NBA season, of having this team with length and 7-footers and challenging and getting 5 and 6 and 7 blocks a game. That's because we had to rely on our defense because we had no depth. Okay, we got the chip. We did what we had to do, but now we have to get depth to preserve Anthony Davis and preserve LeBron James as long as possible. We'll get the defense going, but it's not going to be the same as it was before. But I understand. It's hard for us to divorce ourselves of people that did great things for us, but those days are past. Okay, those things are gone. All black everything. They play the Grizzlies again Tuesday. You think Vogel gives Bron and AD a game off? I don't think so. And let me tell you why. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's not going to happen because of the way they won tonight. It is very obvious that this starting rotation, which obviously I think KCP will probably be in that starting lineup. He was a little sore today, which is why they kept him out, but I anticipate him being in the next couple days on Tuesday. This starting rotation needs to get as many minutes together as possible, which gives Vogel the opportunity to figure out rotations. Tonight was not a great time to figure out rotations because Kuzma's not starting. Okay, Kuzma would actually be going against the second unit, which changes and changes how you figure out runs and stopping runs and the whole nine. So tonight, I don't anticipate this being a game where they found out too much. I know they found out Harold does great against people like Valanciunas, and he gives you the spark and the energy you need off the bench. Harold has the energy that Dwight had coming off the bench. Okay, that's what we want. That he doesn't have the length, he doesn't have the size, but he has the energy. And you combine that with a defensive mind that looks like Caruso, and potentially being able to get your defensive rotations together and have that defense on a string. If you have that together, you can make it work. But right now, today wasn't that day because obviously that wasn't the rotation that's going to be. David from YouTube, Dedmon. We are not signing Dedmon. I want us to get all that out the mind. Ain't nobody signing him. Okay. I hope we can secure Dwayne. What is happening? What are y'all doing tonight? We're not doing this, right? We're not doing this, right? Dwayne Dedmon? This is what we're doing tonight? Is Dwayne Dedmon? That's what happens after 7 games. We say Dwayne Dedmon. You know that run really started because of 3-point shooting, right? Dedmon's not going to help you defend guards on the perimeter, okay? You guys got to calm down. I like the idea of playing AD playing 5 over some of Gasol's minutes, but I also don't like how passive AD can become when he does move to 5 and the toll it's taken on him. Yeah, you're right about that, Blake. And he found himself on the floor a lot tonight. It's happening over and over and over again. But let me tell you, let me show you this as well, because I think this is worth us looking at. This is worth us looking at. The way Anthony Davis handles the mid range really changes depending on where he's at the 5. Okay. When he's playing the 5, his mid-range game is not the same, only because it forces, when you have a 5 and you have him at the 4, it forces the big to have to make a decision with who he's going to cover. Okay, most teams don't have two bigs that they could throw it on the floor to handle an Anthony Davis and even a Marc Gasol, right? As crazy as it sounds, Marc Gasol scored at the rim tonight. Marc Gasol had 7 points tonight, and he had a couple at the rim. Why? Because when Anthony Davis is playing the four, it gives people the opportunity to play inside. Part of the reason why Dwight and JaVale were able to flourish in certain games is because AD played the four. We love AD playing the five because it gives us the ability to run different, right? Against the Rockets, it gives us versatility. Even against the Portland Trailblazers, it gives us versatility. Against the Nuggets, it gives us versatility. But it's not something that you want to rely on. It's something that you want to be able to pull out when necessary. And that's what you want to preserve Anthony Davis for. You don't want to throw him at the five just because his stats look great. It won't look great come the playoffs, okay? You want to do what you got to do when it's time. Let me show you this real quick, and let me show you why it's important, okay? Here we go. Let me pull this up. All right. Now, let me pull this up real quick. Okay. Look at this. Okay. This is Anthony Davis. Now, what I want you to watch is who's on the floor with him. Look what's happening now. Okay. Anthony Davis requires two people to cover him. This is the truth. He's like a J.J. Watt in the NBA. You do not leave Anthony Davis one-on-one with anybody. Now, notice what's happening. Marc Gasol is on the other spot. This is what we saw the other night with Kyle Kuzma. Kyle Kuzma was waiting on the other side, okay? When LeBron drove in and missed, Kyle was able to come in. Because anybody who requires two people, whoever's on the other side, makes all the difference. And they cannot leave Marc Gasol by himself. I know that sounds crazy. You're like, it's Marc Gasol. Marc Gasol has the ability to score. Nobody knows that better than Memphis, okay? So when you see AD going in and doing what he does right here, is because he's able to play the four. If he's playing the five, he's instantly double teamed. That shot doesn't make it. Okay, or if he does make it, it's a magical AD night. But on a night like tonight, when he's not on top of his game, you need to keep him at the four so he's able to do what he does just like that. And Marc Gasol is able to keep the attention of the other side on the weak side of the basket. And so that I wanted to show that because I too am a believer of Anthony Davis playing five. I just believe it's supposed to happen at certain times. Tonight was not one of those nights. Anthony Davis tonight was somewhat efficient, but 32 minutes he had 17 points. Okay. Now, he had 9 rebounds, but part of that was because he was playing the four. I miss Caruso, all black everything. I said that to myself a few times during this game. Insert tear emoji. I'm just glad that it's not an injury. I'm glad that it's only, it's really more based on, the COVID protocols and stuff like that. I'm hoping he's back when we get back home. He obviously didn't make the road trip, so we won't see him again on this next game. But when we get back home, I'm hoping he's, good to go and have to, get him acclimated back into this rotation again. But part of the reason why you're seeing Wesley Matthews so much is because he's filling in the Caruso and KCP minutes. Now you have a good problem again. Wesley Matthews going 4 of 6 again tonight. He's finding his consistent 3. That lets you know that Wesley Matthews may not play tremendous defense like Caruso, but he can hit shots like Caruso. Or he could hit shots like Caruso can't hit. So now you can throw them on the floor together. You're able to find Wesley Matthews paired with a Marc Gasol who's able to find cutters like Kuzma that opens up three-pointers, or LeBron on fast breaks being able to find a Wesley Matthews. You're able to find rotation fits now that you know that Wesley Matthews is able to hit those threes the way he's been advertised. Caruso is able to come in as a defensive stopper alongside with Schroeder, who's showing tremendous defense. So when you want to lock down on the backcourt, you can throw a Schroeder and Alex Caruso in there. I miss him, and I can't wait till he comes back. Tamarino, our own Justin Stover on Twitch. Hey, Devon, still mourning my Dolphins missing the playoffs. Oh, the Lakers winning helped. Wasn't pretty. I sense a small disconnect in something. I'm not sure where and what it is. Hopefully it's minor. Yeah, it's very early. I gotta remind us, guys, they are not getting the same thing we got last year. There's no close contact. It's Zoom calls. You're not able to even train with the full team together. The way they're trying to find chemistry is happening live on TV. What you're watching is what we normally would have happened away from the cameras during practices, for going away, for a small mini camp like LeBron did. They couldn't do any of that. Okay, so and you're talking about a huge changeover in the middle of the season. So you have in the off season, you have half of the players who know what's going on, the other half who've never played together ever at all. So it's gonna be a disconnect because the cohesion methods have to change for this. Okay, you're probably not gonna see them come together. I'm gonna say it again till end of January, mid February, and I'm fine with that because they're finding ways to win ugly. They know how to win. They know they're capable of winning. That's a plus, and a minus because we can get caught on certain nights if we're sleeping. Okay. But when it matters, they can get it done. Leonard Buchanan, they know he is unselfish. Exactly. 24 on the Grizzlies was a deer in headlights on that play from LeBron. Absolutely. I don't even know how you cover him. When LeBron has the rebound and has made up in his mind he's going to drive and put pressure on the defense, what are you going to do? You got 3 trailers and 2 people who are waiting. It could be 1 on 5 and LeBron still has the upper hand. He has a full head of steam and intelligence. So at that point, you just got to just wait and see what's going to happen. We had DG going 0 of 3 or 4 last season from 3. So anything Matthews can offer is a step up. Absolutely. Imagine when this team is clicking. This is all black everything again. And I mean really clicking. Offense, defense, rotations. Oh boy. That's what you have to get excited about. The way this team is able to put things together in individual areas. Some nights is great offensively. Some nights we're able to or some quarters we're able to lock in defensively. If they get all that together, there's no team. This is why we're favored. Because people know the potential of this team. If they click, and they know any LeBron James team is going to click, we have to remind ourselves, LeBron has brought some really horrible teams together, okay? Some really horrible teams. And when he was with the Cavs, he was able to do some things, okay? This is a far better roster, and I think this is probably one of the top 2 rosters he's ever had. Most would argue his best roster. He's going to find a way to get this team to click. Harrell is already bought in. Matthews has already bought into the culture. You're going to find this team clicking on all cylinders. It's just going to take a lot more time than what it took last time. Boogie was still on the roster. You could have kept him and had him available to re-sign this season, to my understanding. Yeah, he was not available. They had to cut him. He was not because he wasn't ready to play. So it didn't make sense to keep him on a roster, and he was not going to be able to play in the playoffs. So they had to make that choice. So when they got rid of him, they knew they were getting rid of him to fill his spot with somebody who could potentially contribute in the roster, and you had to get somebody who was available at that price point. And JR and Dion was it, and we were able to win. It wasn't a huge issue. We were still able to win. Would have been nice to have Boogie this year, absolutely. But we've already seen that Boogie has earned the money that he was paid. We could not pay him what he got paid. Okay, signing JR and Dion was a waste in my opinion. It didn't matter. It didn't hurt anything because either whether you signed them or not, that space was going to be empty because you couldn't bring Boogie to the playoffs. He couldn't play. He had a setback in his rehab, couldn't play. So, if anything, you could say it was a waste, but we got. At the end of the day, there was zero risk in it. What you really got was an ability for someone to come in, and JR or Dion was able to kind of show us some flashes that he's a bucket getter when he's right, but he got injured and obviously wasn't able to do it. Oh my God, Chris Camello, they're listening to me. Dedmon is a solid player, my guy. Listen, okay, let's just do this. I'm tired of this. Let's just go here because y'all about to run me thin on Dwayne Dedmon. I have never seen like y'all really. I mean, and what's funny is we would sign him and then y'all be ready to get rid of that dude in a hot flash. Okay, here we go. And so it doesn't really matter anyway because Dedmon, from my understanding now. Let me see here. Let's see if we can find. I'm trying to pull up his stats real quick because I just want to end this tonight. I want to end this tonight. That's how crazy it is that ESPN don't even have him on their site like that. Woo, y'all running me ragged with this. Okay, Dwayne Dedmon. Here we go. Golly, man, this is bananas, yo. This is bananas. Let's go to basketballreference.com. This is one of my favorite spaces to go. Okay. All right, let's just look, and I'm going to take what he did last year, okay? Let's just look at what he did last year. This is the last time he played, 2019-2020 season, okay? Wow, this is not what we need. He averaged more fouls per game than blocks, steals, and assists. The most he would give you is rebounds. And rebounding is not our issue. If I'm being honest, rebounding is not where our issue is, okay? Our issue is defense. He doesn't really give you much. He averaged 8 points. He averaged 8 points in 23 minutes. I really don't know what you guys are I don't know what you guys are seeing that's saying, all right, let's make a roster spot available or let's make sure we sign this dude. I don't know what he does that makes you guys cape up for Dwayne Dedmon. Just take up fouls. I mean, all of us could do that. 37% from beyond the arc. He was solid last year from distance. Okay, now that we've said that, I'm so glad somebody brought that up. Now somebody said he shoots a certain amount from distance. Okay, let me just show you this real quick. Okay, let me pull this up. I'm glad we said that. Okay. All right. Marc Gasol last year shot 38%. Marc Gasol shot 38% from three last year. And we're asking him in this chat tonight, asking this man to stop shooting threes. Shooting percentage don't mean much to me. It don't. Because at the end of the day, what are we really asking, right? If we're asking him to come onto this team and he doesn't make these shots, are we going to say the same thing that we're saying about Marc Gasol, who shot a higher percentage last year? It's just, I don't see what the whole fuss is about. What's Seth? What's going on with our defense? Our defense this is not a defensive. We don't have a defensive identity just yet. Okay, our defensive identity was set from the gate last year. We're going to have Avery Bradley, who has made up his mind that he's going to be a pest on in the backcourt, with Rondo being a pest and Caruso being able to come back in and reinforce that. And then, of course, we had length. Length was what we're going to rely on. Funnel everybody to the inside and allow, Dwight or JaVale to come in and behind and fix that. We were one of the best interior defensive teams in the league last year, mainly because we had length. Length is not our friend this year. Okay, we got rid of all of our length, but what we did add was offensive production, and we added the ability to have depth. Okay? That's what we have. Is we have depth, so you could have a KCP out and a Caruso out, who are both crucial to the championship last year in the finals. You have them both out, and you're still able to win ugly because your depth can override what they can ride. So one of the announcers made this point. I'll get to that in a minute, Leonard. They made this point. The Grizzlies had to come out and be aggressive in the beginning because they knew that if they didn't get a good lead in the beginning, they were going to have an issue in the fourth. That teams aren't able to keep the gas on as long as the Lakers can, because the Lakers can switch out, which is why you don't need anybody scoring above 20 points. Tonight, the Lakers did all right tonight, and we've talked about this before. Look at the point totals that we had. 17, 11, 22, and 11. That's in the starting lineup. Then you had 16, 14, 7 off the bench, okay? So when you're able to spread your point totals around like that, you're able to keep legs fresh. Look at the minutes here. 24 minutes, 27 minutes, 21 minutes, 14 minutes, 24 minutes. When you're able to keep your people in a low count, 30 and below. The only person who really played longer than that was LeBron, who played 32 minutes, and Anthony Davis, who played 32 minutes, which is really still lower than their average for their career. So when you're looking at that, you're going, okay, our depth is going to be able to withstand runs and be able to come back. I made the point before. You have LeBron James in the fourth quarter. If you can withstand the runs, keep it close, you pretty much have a great chance to win. Are we going to cover the spread? Almost not every night, but tonight we won by 14. It didn't feel like it, but we won by 14 because depth matters. Our defense is still struggling, but what we did was we substituted our identity in defense and added depth. So you have to sacrifice. It's like almost like 2K when you have a bunch of points and you have a certain player and you're trying to make this player. You want to spread those points into a certain place to make them either a defensive guard or a playmaking guard or whatever. You guys know how 2K works. It's the same thing with the team. You only have a certain amount of money to get a certain amount of talent, and you have to make a choice as to what you want to do. And what the Lakers decided was, instead of us having two guys off the bench who can contribute with defense, when you have a Dwight and you have a Caruso, we want to add offense to that. So we'll sub out Dwight and we'll add in Harrell. So we know Harrell can give us double-digit points every night. Tonight he did the same thing. But he's not as tall as Dwight. So you're going to sacrifice some defense, but you're going to gain a point total. And that's where the Lakers made their decision. As opposed to running it back with the same team who essentially has already won, has already proven themselves, and are getting older. We had an old team last year. JaVale is older. Dwight is definitely getting older. LeBron needs help. You bring in youth. You bring in people like Schroeder. You bring in people like Harrell, who are hungry for a championship. And yeah, they're going to suffer a little bit on the defensive end. They're not Rondo. They're not Dwight. but they do contribute more consistently. As much as I love playoff Rondo, he was up and down all season. Schroeder has been the answer to what we need to help give LeBron an opportunity to rest even while he's on the court. Even though he played 32 minutes, LeBron was not doing a lot of work in the 32 minutes. The reason why he was able to turn it on in the fourth is because Schroeder was doing work in the third. That's what you want. You want depth who's able to do that, okay? But it's a great point, but yeah. I think we're lacking the joyful energy from the bench without Dwight and McGee. I don't think our chemistry is the problem, but think that's lacking from last year. Yeah, you're not going to see a funny bench right now. That was great last year because you needed it during a long season. But this season is extremely packed and really accelerated. You're not going to have this. You're not going to have that same youthful joy and fun and play. We don't have time for that. Literally, in 48 hours, these dudes are playing again. Okay. And then they're going to turn right back around and play again. And then on Thursday, Friday, they're going to play back to back. So the season is so condensed, and you're not in just one space where you're able to play and, play Madden and go to each other's rooms. When they were in the bubble, they had a lot more freedom because everybody was COVID tested. And essentially the bubble was meant to keep players free, being able to, get around, build camaraderie. That's not the case here. When they get done with practice, they go home. When they get off that plane off of a road trip, they're going home. They're not spending time with each other in each other's rooms. They're probably in a text thread together, but they're not going to see the same cohesion. They love each other. We've already seen that. The chemistry between Trez and AD, I love it. We saw when AD was mic'd up, he was hyping up Trez, man. He was giving that dude all love. Every time that Trez was doing a play, even when they were on the floor together, when Trez had an and one, AD was screaming and one. That level of chemistry is what I'd rather see. As opposed to, I know JaVale was like our rah-rah, our cheerleader, our mascot, but the amount of mistakes he made on the floor, I would rather get rid of the joyful playfulness and give me production on the floor. I know it sounds crazy because we enjoyed last season so much, but we will have time to joke and laugh when we get another ring. Because let me be honest, let me just remind everybody, if Kobe was on this team, I guarantee you wouldn't have saw what you saw last year. Wouldn't have been no joke. You know that. The way Kobe treated what was my man's name? You all remember Jeremy Lin and all them guys when he had all that. Man, he hated when them dudes would be joking. Nick Young, he don't play that. He don't play none of that stuff. So what you're seeing is kind of more of a regressing to the mean of what a championship team looks like. We had a lot of fun. We'll continue to have fun, but it will not look like last year. Once this team is cohesive and connective, this is Joe P on Periscope. I literally feel like the competition. I literally feel for the competition. Yeah. It's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. Remember, Form Familia is a marathon, not a sprint. Jonathan Watson, our own. Yes, it didn't make sense then, but it makes sense to have kept him now, is my point. You couldn't afford him, Blake. There's just no way. We couldn't keep up with the bids. There's just no way. We had to leave room for depth. They made a decision for depth, and I know it would have been nice, but it really wouldn't have been possible. Better off going for Jahlil Okafor. Now y'all tripping for real. Listen. We're probably going to find a big at the trade deadline. I don't think it's going to be a high premium big. I don't know. Pelinka has found a way to get some things going, but I don't think you're going to find that. Okay. At the end of the day, if we can get this group to get more cohesive on defense, most of these issues is not an issue of length. It's not like we're challenging and getting beat. A lot of it is we're missing rotations. We're just missing defensive assignments. That's mental. That's mental. That's understand. That's defensive IQ. That's learning and trying to figure that stuff out. That's not a matter of length. Okay, we're not getting yammed on every game. That's not the issue. The issue is that we have to figure out how to make this defense work and how to readjust Anthony Davis to get in the middle of all of that. Okay. Last couple ones here. We play to win the game. Kevin Angelis. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. You said Jonathan Rodriguez. Who's that behind you? I would assume the Raiders. That's my childhood team. I've always been a Raider fan, which is why I feel for Dolphins fans. And the Dodgers. You don't even have to ask who that is. I wouldn't mind if Lakers got Mitchell Robinson. I've heard that floated around as well. I don't know what the possibility of that is. I like that more than Dedmon. I'm gonna be honest. I like that more than Dedmon. And I know Mitchell hasn't really been in the league a lot for a while. He's fresh and new, but I think that bodes well for him. Only played 133 career games. His nickname is Blockiness Monster in Lobinson. So yeah, that kind of gives you the idea of what his identity is: catching lobs and finishing at the rim. as as well as being able to handle blocks. But he's 7 foot, and 7 foot at 240. That would be an addition, in my opinion. I'm not asking that dude to shoot threes. That's not what I need you for. I don't need you to shoot threes. I need you to get your behind on that block and handle business. That's what I need you to do. Okay, that's what I need you to do. All right. Devon, I think the disconnect is we are giving up a lot of points inside, and we didn't see that last year. Yeah, and you're going to see that because you don't have defensive-minded players. When we got Dwight, we told him up front, your only job is to rebound and play defense. Okay, as the season progressed, they allowed him to score, and they celebrate him shooting an occasional three and stuff like that, and him finishing at the rim. But if you remember the early days of Dwight, finishing at the rim was not his primary goal. It wasn't even his secondary. That was something that happened as a byproduct of good defense. He always got offensive touches when his defense was on point. Okay. By the time we got into the playoffs against the Nuggets, it wasn't about him scoring. It was about him being a nuisance to Jokic. He even said it himself. He told Jokic, I'm going to follow you. I don't care if we're in the food line. I'm going to be right there behind you just to remind you that I'm on your behind. That's what you want. And if you can't, this year we did not sign people for that reason. That's just, we didn't sign Montrez and go, we want you, don't worry about offensive touches. We want you to come in here and play. We didn't scout him out because his defense was great. He got exposed in the playoffs. What LeBron said on the podcast was, we needed help off of bench production. That's what we needed. We had to make a decision. What's more beneficial to this team going forward for a repeat? Being able to keep length and block in the center, or being able to get some more offensive production so I don't run myself crazy on a shortened offseason, turning right back around after the longest offseason ever. And LeBron and AD don't want to have to play defense at a high level like they did, or play offense at a high level like they did last year. It makes sense when you're trying to get a chip, and Kobe has just died, and you got the motivation, and you push yourself. And Bron said it. He said, man, it was like hell every time trying to get in there and do it. He said it was devastating every time. Because he said by the time you get into the semifinals, your body is hurting. You're tired of having to carry that load. Okay, he did it. He got us the ring. Now let's pay him back the favor, and let's get him some offensive production. Trying to get offense and defense, 3 and D wings. You're probably not going to find premium guys for the price that we could afford. Okay, you sign Kuzma, you sign Davis, you sign LeBron again. You're eating up your money. Okay, so the people who are available are gone. People are available. The best you're going to get is a Wes Matthews at discount. A Trez came at a discount. 6th man of the year should not be getting paid what he's getting paid. Dennis Schroeder, who we're trying to get locked up now, he comes at a discount. Okay, so that's yeah. Okafor and Dedmon ain't it, Chief? Agreed, Jason. Agreed. Listen, guys, I'm excited to see what this team is going to be. I know that tonight was ugly, but I am a firm believer. Now, here's what I love. The Lakers now are showing a trend of identity of winning on the road. Okay, last year the Lakers had one of the best road records. To be honest, we kept wondering why they would lose at home the way they did, but away from home they were deadly. Okay, this year this matters because we're still traveling, and so it's very likely. It's a 50-50 toss-up. We don't know. It's likely that the playoffs could end up being a travel type of situation, unlike the bubble. It really could end up being a lot of travel. And so if you can have a team that has geared themselves to be able to win on the road, this is not about crowds now at this point. This is about being able to walk into an arena after sleeping in a hotel. They've been on the road for a minute now. They're staying in Memphis. They'll be there tonight, be there tomorrow night, play again. They'll probably get back on a plane and come home. So they've been away from home for a minute, and they're still winning, okay? Pay attention to that. Even if they win ugly, this team is finding cohesion on the road. Every time they go on the road, it's their form of the mobile bubble, okay? It's their time to get together, find camaraderie. When they get done with the game, folks ain't going home. They're going back to the hotel room. They're eating together. They're watching film together because they're outside of California, able to do things a little bit different based upon guidelines. I know NBA has their own guidelines as well. So you're finding them be able to find cohesion on the road. When they're able to win, this does nothing but boost morale, boost chemistry, helps cohesion, and gets this to be a solid unit, 1 through 15, all the way through. So them being road warriors to me is a good sign. But the road is not the same nowadays. LJ, it's not the same. It's not the same. But this is different than the bubble. And that's why it's important. Prior to the bubble, this team was traveling and they were finding themselves. Okay, they were finding themselves. I really feel like part of the reason why Avery Bradley left mad. I think he was fine. I think he earned his ring. We don't even get into the playoffs the way we did without him. But part of it was he missed out on the entire experience. So from March all the way through October, he didn't get none of that experience. He didn't get the cohesion. I firmly believe, and I'm glad he did what he did. He did what he had to do for his son. I will never fault a father for that. So this is not a fault. But part of what ended up happening is if he would have been in that bubble, I strongly feel like the Lakers would have stayed with the Lakers because the level of experience that they had. Listen, Dwight was ready to stay. JaVale was ready to stay. Okay. Danny Green was ready to stay. We made those moves. We got rid of JaVale. We let Dwight go. We traded Danny Green. Okay. So I really feel like the Lakers really wanted to be a part of that team. They wanted to run it back, but you can't run it back with Danny Green shooting 14% for a month from three. You got to make some adjustments. And so they're going to find their way to get cohesion back. It's just going to be a little bit different. Ball security needs to be addressed. Kevin Angeles. We were pretty much a high turnover team last year too. Tonight we did all right. We only had 10 turnovers, but there was a game where we had 10 turnovers by the second quarter. So yes, it does. It does in a sense, but all teams, you're going to see them in the double-digit turnover category pretty much for the first couple months. No team is ready. I'm more interested to see how solidified their ball movement is and making decisions on and off ball around February. That's where it matters to me. I don't expect them. I would love it, but I don't expect. As a matter of fact, if they would have had 6 or 7 turnovers tonight, I would have been like, that's a blip. That's an anomaly. That's not the norm. It would have been nice, but that's not the norm, okay? But let's just think about it. They had 10 turnovers tonight, and 3 of those came from Davis, 3 of those came from Kuzma, and 2 of those came from James. So 3 of your starters accounted for 80% of your turnovers, right? So, I anticipate that being, that's actually good for the Lakers, okay? Anthony Davis and LeBron James normally average 8 by themselves, okay? But tonight, it was one of those nights and we just didn't get it going. But they'll get it together. They're going to get it together. But ball security is going to be something that you're probably going to see as an issue for every team. Listen, guys, we come back again on Tuesday. I'm expecting the Memphis Grizzlies to come out even more aggressive than they were tonight. I feel like they feel like they should have won this game. I feel like the Lakers are going to come out and do what they always do. They're going to find a way to win while also growing and figuring out their rotations. I don't anticipate Kuzma starting on the next game. I anticipate that KCP will be back. In the event that he doesn't, Kuzma will most definitely get the start. The question is whether or not Anthony Davis and LeBron James will play after the way they played tonight. I don't anticipate them sitting out. They need more minutes. 22 points from James, 17 points from Davis, which is fine. Double digits, they're doing fine. Anthony Davis had 9 rebounds and 3 blocks. I'm fine with that. But LeBron, once again, 13 rebounds, 8 assists, almost had a triple-double tonight. You want to be able to help him get into a rhythm where that's not necessary. I would rather see him with 13 assists rather than 13 rebounds. I'd rather see somebody else on the block and allowing LeBron to get on a break. And he had a tremendous outlet pass, man, fresh off a rebound tonight to Montrez. And I thought that was a beautiful sign because that's something that we saw on the regular before. Now we're starting to see it happen with other players outside of Anthony Davis. So we'll see how that's going to go. I anticipate another win, and Chaz will be right. I believe that Chaz would have ran his prediction right. As he said, Lakers will not lose to the Grizzlies on this road trip. We'll find out on Tuesday if that is true. Hopefully he'll be back to join me as well. You guys have been great, man. I love being able to hop on this chat with you guys. You guys make this time go by so fast. It's already been an hour. I love y'all, man. There's no familia like the Forum Familia. So I want you guys to enjoy your Sunday night. And a lot of you guys are going back to work tomorrow, man. Just keep your Mamba mentality about you. And remember, Mamba out, but not forgotten.